right, here we go. Michael Jai White, welcome back.
Oh, thanks. Commemorating the COVID hairdo now.
Oh yeah, I'm looking crazy right now.
Yeah.
My barber refuses to come over.
yeah. It's just like, I look like I'm chopping down. I am chopping down trees, really.
Oh, in real
I'm
life.
like redoing my yard and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the time to kind of like redo your house.
Yeah. Yep. I'm in Ace Hardware and Home Depot damn near every day.
Yep.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like, oh man, this is kind of cool because we got to wear the mask all the time, right?
Mhm.
And I'm walking out and I'm like, oh, I'm incognito now. It's like, yeah, it's kind of a nice little experiment. And people are like, hey, what's up, Mike, man? What's up with that movie coming out? I'm like, really? Seriously? How do y'all see? I think I'm fooling people, but I don't get it. Like, how do you know who I am? Like, I'm like, is my name on my shirt? It's weird.
Yeah, I'm surprised isn't more robberies right now. It's the perfect time to do it. Think about it.
Yeah, coming from where I came from. Every time I'm seeing, at first I had to get used to this. When people are walking toward me and they got a mask on, I'm like, I ain't taking my eyes off you. Because to me,
so you gotta watch everyone now.
That tells me like this, you up to something. But I'm like, yeah, but the COVID thing and everything else. But I had to make that adjustment, man, because I'm like on DEFCON 3, man, ready, like, yo, what's up with this cat? But I have that problem anyway,
Well, it's sort of a weird time right now to fight because it's like, person just has to cough and that's it. The fight's over.
Yeah, but it's also a time where it's like, y'all better not get it messed up because you may not know who I am. If I do some dirt, if I fight somebody, but maybe, I don't know, since everybody can see that you can recognize me through the damn mask, I don't know, maybe I get caught. But like, I think about, people doing whatever. It's like you can, have that attitude adjustment and nobody knows what. I mean, it's a good time to commit crimes. I'm not trying to put that out there, but it's kind of like, coming from where I'm thinking, like, man, it's almost like, isn't there a law about covering your identity? But I guess that's all tossed to the side now.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the weirdest thing that I'm seeing is that these big protests that are happening to the lockdown, which is, unless I'm mistaken, all white people with guns.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a single black person protesting.
Yeah.
As they shouldn't.
I mean, well, folks that feel entitled, they just want every goddamn thing. I mean, white folks who feel entitled, I don't care if a black person says, I want this. It's like, no, it's like Black Lives Matter. Our lives can't even fucking matter without you having to, feel like you have a say in it. Like, it's just, it's just crazy. It's that, whatever's inside comes out during stress.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if somebody's already feeling entitled, they want the biscuit and the damn corn muffin. They want the soup and the salad, right? So, can I have everything? And it's like, okay, here we go. Now we see what you're about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, a black female, and she was telling me how white people just aren't being used to being told what to do, historically.
Yeah.
And for the first time where all white people are being told what to do, they just freak out and lose it.
Yeah. And
they're comparing it to slavery and stuff like
right,
that.
Yeah. Because, these times have just kind of exposed a whole lot of ugliness. And, my feeling that is this is a backlash from the whole Obama thing. Because, a lot of white folks who thought they weren't prejudiced. I got my black friend over here, me and, and Malik, we real cool and everything else because that's on your terms, right? But now, as soon as somebody marries your daughter, now it's different. Now, this is not you controlling it. Now, this is somebody, a part of your family. Now you might realize, oh, shoot, maybe I had some latent, hostility and prejudice that I wasn't dealing with. So with Obama, that was like somebody marrying into your family against your will. And now it's like the most powerful man in the country is,
the world.
In the world is right there. So now when you hear black people are not being treated well, you don't want to hear nothing like that. You don't want to hear that shit because you're like, well, wait. The president is, so you get it. So I mean, even people who are way off base, they have a foundation in something. So I see where their feeling might come from, but even though it's not logical, you know what I mean? But I think that started this whole trend of being a little too precious, and that whole thing about, you know, being, uh, entitled, you know?
Yeah.
So whatever I feel, I blast it out there.
Well, you've been in China quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You've done movies in China.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a movie during SARS, actually, where people were walking around with their whole, like almost everybody was walking around with masks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this is part 2 for me.
What do you think about the treatment of Black people in China right now? Have you seen those videos, like the McDonald's that wouldn't allow the Black people inside? They had a laminated sign that McDonald's apologized for.
Honest to God, I shield myself from a lot of this stuff, because after a while, I can't let all this stuff get into me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going, I go, if I press this button, is this going to benefit my day? Nah, skip. I heard about it. That's all I need. I get it. But I tell you one thing, being in China, several times in China, for sometimes 4 months at a time, there is not one moment where a Chinese person looked down upon me. Not one time. And I'm talking these hundreds of thousands of people that I've come in contact with. What they did, because I'm sometimes in Hebei, I'm in Guangzhou, all these different things. They will get people out of their house to go look at me, but it's not a thing of, I've never, not one time somebody goes, I never got the stink eye from not one Chinese person. It's usually like, wow, hey, look at this guy. You know, we don't usually see guys like that. So I know, I'm not saying that that's false. Maybe, I mean, I don't know. Like while I was there, I only saw maybe 5 other Black people at certain times, and a lot of them were African. Yeah. Maybe because I look a little bit different. Like I'm like, I like, oh, is he an athlete or something like that? I get the preferential treatment. And that was what I saw. So all I'm saying is the two are coinciding. If they're looking down on folks, they look up on folks too. Me there with my lady, they go, wow, you're beautiful. Like, and that's something that is no fronting. They're looking and smiling. You know what I mean? The majority.
Well, but once things get ugly,
yeah,
and people are thinking about self-preservation, and they don't care about how this might look or how this might sound or the repercussions of this later on, when they're worried about their own health, I just find it very, very ironic that this virus started in Wuhan, China, by Chinese, but now they're blaming it on Black people for spreading it. But huh? Like what type of ignorant, backward ass shit is this?
That's some dumb ass backward shit. But I think that's bureaucratic. Personally, that would be my guess, because somebody's putting out policy. There's a lot of bullshit in bureaucracy that goes on. I think the average person, I mean, they of course they could be convinced or influenced a certain way. But I do know, as I walk there, and several times that I've been there, nobody looked down on me. That was not the feeling overall. And I've been there several times. Yeah, you're right. When you're talking about, oh, now there's a crisis, and some people are very, very coerced. They're very controlled. Bruh, you got a society where you can only have one kid.
There's no freedom of speech.
Right.
You cannot talk bad about the government.
Religion.
Google is not allowed. They have their own version called Baidu, which is their own version of Google.
Right.
Because regular Google has too much freedom in it.
Exactly. You leave a tip on a lot of parts of China. You leave a tip on the table, they will run you down and give you that tip back, because you know they don't want to be accused of taking money or what. You know what I mean? It's like there's a whole different world. It's a whole different world. There's two worlds there, though. There's the hierarchy. There are the small part of China where these are powerful people, but the majority of people are really sequestered and controlled, like beyond what you could possibly imagine. I believe that there's 90 or 85 to 90% of China that doesn't know they're a superpower, because the regular people, they live in a 3-block radius, man, and they ain't going nowhere,
Well, according to 2017 reports, there's about 100 billionaires in the Chinese parliament.
Yeah, 100 billionaires in a country of 1.5 billion people.
Right. But I'm saying,
right,
look at the U.S. government.
Yeah.
How many billionaires do you think there is in the Senate and Congress and the presidential, branch and, the Supreme Court or whatever? Maybe Trump is a billionaire. There might be one or two others floating around here and there. Lots of millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
How many billionaires are in U.S. government?
Don't know.
Hardly any, if any.
Right.
Maybe one or two. There was 100 in the Chinese government. So when you see these protests in Hong Kong and people like, oh, we're going to switch the government over, that shit ain't going nowhere. They're so established to a multi-generational level over there that they are not giving up nothing.
Yeah, people don't realize in our lifetime. I mean, in my lifetime, I know Mao was still there in the 70s. Like,
yeah,
that cat outlawed religion, school, all that. And there was a thing where if you went to go be a capitalist, you tried to get money, they got rid of everybody.
You couldn't own property early on.
Right.
Owning property is a relatively new thing within the last 20 years, maybe.
That mentality is deep, man. So you think that's going to turn overnight? The commoner is not going to be trying to get rich. They're not thinking that way. There's the people who are running things that they're on a whole nother level. That's the crazy rich Asian thing.
Right.
but the majority of people, people in this country don't realize the majority of the people are making widgets, man. They're making widgets, and they have a bike. They have that one kid. It's drastically different for the majority of folks in there.
Well, you would think that with the whole coronavirus lockdown that police violence would go down. But there was just a video that we had posted the other day. There was a black man that was killed on Facebook Live. You heard about this?
Are you talking about the jogger?
No. There's the jogger situation that happened in Georgia. The Facebook Live situation just happened. There was a guy on Facebook Live. I guess he was running away from the police. He gets out and runs. The police tase him and then shoot him like 10 times.
Yeah.
And then you could hear, because he's still on live as this is happening after he's already dead. And one of the cops starts joking about how this is going to be a closed casket funeral and stuff like that. They were literally joking about how this guy's dead now. And he was unarmed. He had a cell phone. And, they'll probably say, well, we thought the cell phone was a gun. But I don't know, man. To be joking about someone after you just killed him, like,
dude,
what kind of people you got in these positions?
I happen to be within a certain fraternity of folks. I got martial artists, bodybuilders. A lot of folks get into that because of a certain, psychology. A lot of these people, it's like the Revenge of the Nerds. Cops go right into that thing. A lot of people with a lot of insecurities, they have this thing. I mean, a lot of them love the superhero shit because they can vicariously live through that. A lot of cops, their mentality, I mean, a lot of them are cool. I was almost a cop at one time. And I had a lot of friends who were cops. And man, I got something to tell you about that will, kind of get into the whole psychology of the whole thing. But yeah, man, these are average thinking people. There's not a lot of whole psychological things that go into being a cop. You can be a psychopath and get through becoming a police officer very easily, right? When my son Devin, I knew he was going to be born, and I was, focusing on the acting thing. I was like, I can't mess around. My son is about to come into this world. I got to have benefits. And so since I kind of was cool with some higher ups in the police force, because I turned my life around. I was like, let me focus on, being a cop. I'm gonna be an exemplary officer, right? For a minute, because I knew I'd be good at it. I understand the predator thinking. I understand the criminal mind and everything else. I was kind of into that, and I hated bullies from my core anyway, right? So I was like, I think I could possibly do this, and so I took the exams, everything, physical exam, aced it, broke a record for the police force. I'm like this close to going into the academy, get called in by the higher ups, thinking, oh man, they about to lace me because I'm doing great. I'm I had a super high score on the written and everything. And basically they were like, because of my affiliation with somebody who was like second in charge, we want to do you this favor. Right now, we're supposed to tell you, thank you very much, we can't use you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Turns out, and I found this out for a lot of different police organizations, or it may be the majority, because I asked this question throughout my lifetime. What they told me was, your score was too high. If your IQ is too high, you're no good for the police department, because our research says you're not going to be challenged with this job, and you're more likely to be involved in corruption because the job. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And basically, they laid it out that, okay, I can go back to school, take some criminal courses or some certain courses, and go to internal affairs, possibly go Fed, become Secret Service like my brother. And so I mean,
but your brother's in the Secret Service.
My brother's Secret Service, service agent, and I knew a lot about him. I was kind of hooked into that world a bit, and the whole law enforcement thing was kind of part of something that I was kind of playing with, and actually the reserve is something I've been set. I was kind of, I'll get into that some other time, but the whole point is this: that to be a cop, the way I look at it, you got to be brainwashable. You got to be somebody who we can track the way you think. You got to be malleable. We got to turn you into what we want to turn you into. And so upon learning that, I go, they don't think out of the box. They're from the box. I'm not saying every officer, because there's a lot of officers, that come with a modicum of common sense and fair play. But you got a lot of nerds who now get bigger, and now they want it to be powerful, and they want to exude that power. And and these are the bad apples, right? Just like with anything, man. Why you even want to become a cop, right? You got to think about that. Why does somebody want to be? How many people I deal with that they want to be bad, they want to be able to fight. Why, bro?
Yeah.
A lot of it's like deep down psychological, because you want to inflict pain. You got issues.
Yeah. I mean, I take it one step further and say, what type of person wants to become a correctional officer in a prison?
Mm-hmm.
What type of person wants to put themselves in that environment every day of their lives? Be around a bunch of criminals who hate them in scummy conditions, with not great pay on top of that.
Right. Yeah, but here I can definitely speak on that, because no bullshit. I'm an actor known for whatever, and I still was going into the reserve because it was in me, because the way I thought was I had a certain way of life that I looked at. So I could see somebody wanting to be a correctional officer for the right reasons.
What are the right reasons?
Well, man,
Do you think a CEO is going to rehabilitate the criminals?
Well, I mean, it's kind of like why do you want to go into the armed into the military service?
Well, because you could feel like you're protecting your country.
Absolutely, it's part of that.
So
Yeah.
you're protecting your community from the criminals, I guess.
Well, yeah,
I mean, as a correctional officer, maybe as a cop.
yeah.
But as a correctional officer,
Bruh,
only the warden really makes the policy. So what are you really doing? You're just making sure they don't escape.
yeah, but which is
And don't kill each other.
which
Like,
which is part of a contribution. I
okay, I guess.
yeah. I'm
guess.
saying
I mean, I'm sure some of my viewers are COs and they're mad at me right now, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's like everybody. Like you can go across the board. Some people want to be cops for the right reason. Some people they want to be cops for the wrong reason.
Right.
Some people want to get into martial arts for the right reason.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I'm dealing with, personally, I've dealt with that type of mindset for a long time. I had so many students who were cops, federal agents, because you don't learn that shit in the as a cop. You don't learn how to fight. They don't learn how to fight at all. I've taught scores of cops. That's why I was so connected with a lot of them, right? Because I'm teaching you how to really fight. You know what I mean? So the mentality, I'm dealing with these mentalities. They're not hiding it from me. I realize oh man, this guy got a problem. You know, this guy's, somebody might be telling me there's some glory story of how you kick somebody's ass. And I'm like, you think I'm in that same ilk, and I'm going to tell you a story about, some glorified where I beat somebody. You exposing what you thinking like. It's like, okay, I see. There's a lot of people like that. A lot. But, I see through it, man. And the learning how to fight, that's like a magnet for those type of people. So, trying to become a cop might be a magnet for those type of people as well. Like, why, bro? You really want to pay your debt to society, or do you want to like get back from Bruce who beat you up in the 6th grade? You know what I'm saying?
Well, then there's a situation that you actually touched on where Ahmaud Arbery was essentially lynched in Georgia, Brunswick, Georgia, to be exact. They haven't caught the guys who did it. I guess the guys are they know who did it, but they're on the run right now.
I hate that shit to my core.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of shit like this because people think that the police are sort of on hiatus right now. And you're going to see the ugly side of humans thinking that there's no police state.
That's that entitled shit. That's that entitled shit. I mean, the guy actually said, "There's a black man running down my neighborhood." Like that's against the goddamn law. Like really? That's what you say? You feel like that's okay to say? And that's before you shoot him. You think already by virtue of him being a black man jogging, not with something in his hand looking down. How many times have you seen joggers? Let's just play role reversal. It's a white man jogging down the street and 2 black men chase him down and shoot him. What happens right after that?
The whole block will be shut down. People get pulled out of their homes.
I'm sorry.
Right?
It's like, people want to try to blame the victim or whatever. Just put that in your head. Just reverse that shit for a second.
There's no blaming of this victim. I mean, a couple
white
of
guy
rednecks.
jogs down the street, roll up on him, and this happens because I think he stole something. Okay? Let's see your logic on that. That's for people to try to run to those murderers' defense.
I think there's no defense here.
Yeah.
These guys should be tried for murder.
Mm-hmm.
And does Georgia have the death penalty?
Well, what does it matter? Just put them in population. Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. Well, I'm sure the Aryans will probably try to protect them a little bit.
Good luck on that.
They're outnumbered.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain point where even Aryans might be like, you on your own.
Georgia actually reintroduced the death penalty in 1973. First execution happened in 83, and there's been 76 people executed since 83. So yeah, maybe this will be 78 with these two guys. Hopefully.
Yeah. Just thinking of that, like, man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Well, let's switch gears for a second. Evander Holyfield has announced that he's coming back to boxing at the ripe old age of 57.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
You heard about this?
No, I knew he was training. I actually saw him last year. I was talking to him. Where one of those times where I can get 5 words out of him. He's a quiet dude. But yeah, he's been training. Like
Yeah, I mean, he said he's been training too. Yeah, this is part of the article. The champ is back. I'd like to announce that I'll be making a comeback to the ring. I'll be fighting exhibition matches for a great cause.
Yeah, okay.
Unite for our fight campaign. Yeah.
Hey, I think he might go further than a lot of people think.
Well, how old was Foreman when he fought like his last time?
47, I think.
Okay, that's 10 years younger.
I think so.
Than Holyfield.
But Holyfield's made of the old stuff. When people were real fighters. I mean, I think there's a lot of fighters out here right now who are athletes who are taught how to fight.
Right, we talked about that.
That man's a fighter and an athlete.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. I mean, I'm watching a video of him training. I mean, he looks good. He looks like he's in shape. But he's 57. That's
Well, you're taught to believe that that's a deterrent. Then that's part of the problem. I mean, a couple years ago, I was training. I was training down UCLA, and I was running against UCLA track folks and beating them in the 100. And I know Willie Galt still trounces people young enough to be his child, and Willie Galt's older than me. One of my instructors, Bill Superfoot Wallace, is still the fastest, the best kicker I've ever seen. To this day, he's 73. So it's how you train and how you think. Yeah, maybe endurance-wise and healing, maybe a little bit different. But hey, I still get in the ring with anybody. Anybody. If I'm in shape, cardiovascularly, I roll with anybody that's out there.
But a boxing match is not like sparring. You're using much lighter gloves, and you're really trying to hurt the person.
Right. True.
Sparring doesn't seem as brutal as an actual professional boxing match.
True, but
am I right about this? I'm not a fighter, so you tell me.
It depends on how you spar. Some people spar lightly. Some people spar exactly how they fight. It's all gentleman's agreement, the way I look at it.
Okay.
Because I mean, hell, like I'm telling you, there is a standard where for years, sparring partners get paid extra if you knock out the champ in sparring. There's people who subscribe to that way.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so that's interesting. I didn't know about this. So a champ will risk getting knocked out by a sparring partner?
Hell yeah.
Even though it might mess up his future fight?
Most sparring partners can't do that. That's the whole point.
Oh,
sparring partners are not usually in the top shape or whatever.
Okay.
But
I see what you're saying.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, like in Mike Tyson's camp, you knock down the champ, you get extra, you get 1,500. If you could do that.
Which is a lot to a sparring partner.
Hell yeah. And that's back in the day. But that's been something my entire career, fighting and everything else. Dude, I have jumped in the ring when if somebody's a champion and boxers like Layman Brewster, I would train with him, I spar with him. After after and before he knocked out Klitschko. I'm like, I love this because it's about me getting better. So I always want to spar and fight with people who are above my ability. So I'd be right in there. And the thing is, I get extra if I can knock this cat down.
Okay.
So that makes it fun.
Well, Mike Tyson is 53.
Mm-hmm.
There was a video he posted recently of him sparring. You saw that?
Oh, he wasn't sparring.
Well,
what I saw, he was hitting the pads.
Yeah, with the pads. Yeah. Imagine a Holyfield Tyson rematch again. A 57-year-old Holyfield and a 53-year-old Tyson going at it.
Yeah.
That'd be like $100 million fight right there.
I don't think so.
I mean, I know it wouldn't be worth it for the fans, but in terms of like the type of hype that would be over this would be crazy.
Yeah. It would get a lot. It would get a lot of views because of the.
That's what I'm saying. Because it's just the people involved.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, as an actual fighter, when you saw Tyson with the pads, how does he look?
It didn't surprise me. I mean, he's got fast twitch muscle. That's not going to go nowhere. It's only in the later rounds or that kind of thing. I'm not surprised at all. We're just basically the same age. I'm not any slower. You know what I mean? Why would he?
At all?
No.
So you mean to tell me that you put a 25-year-old Michael and today's Michael against each other in the ring?
I'll dust the 25-year-old Michael.
Okay.
I'll dust him. I know too much.
Okay. What about the speed?
The speed is very close.
Very close.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just know too many tricks. If I'm in shape. Now, this Michael, after the fourth round, is in trouble, probably.
There's that.
Yeah.
Well, because I mean, the last time that Mike Tyson fought, he didn't do too well. I mean, he actually retired because of how badly he did in the ring.
Right. Yeah. But he had so much going on. And it's a psychological component as well. I mean, I feel like there was a psychological component with Holyfield in the fight that he had with him. Because Holyfield, I mean, I happen to be on the inside of that to some degree. Holyfield was always they was like family. That was like a brother to him. Holyfield was a cruiserweight, so they didn't have any kind of discrepancy.
Oh.
But Holyfield was a big bro type, you know what I mean? So they was all good. And I just felt like, because I was at that fight, and I was like, damn, why
the ear biting fight?
No, the first one. The first fight.
The first one where he lost.
Yeah, because I was like, why is Mike manufacturing all this hatred all of a sudden? And I felt like he's trying to dig deep down to justify beating this man. That's my own, couch psychology shit going, what is that about? Because, I mean, I always looked at Tyson as somebody who looked up at father figures, man. He was always, this guy was full of love. Like, how when he was with Customato, he emulated Customato. He acted like him. When he was, he looked up to Jim Jacobs and all this. And then when he got around
Don
King, he started being political, and nigga was every third word out of his mouth, just like Don King. Goes into prison, comes out with two father figures tattooed on him. Holyfield was a family type of figure. Like, he was cool with him, right? So, when Holyfield was going, I don't know why Mike is saying this, and I was like, And then the third round, I remember watching that. I was like, the third round, Mike, because of course I studied the hell out of this dude, right? All of a sudden, on the third round, Mike heard something that he never heard in his whole career. Everybody started chanting for the other dude. And I felt like Mike stopped fighting.
Huh.
I really psychologically feel like
he lost the crowd.
He might disagree with me, but I was like, what I'm looking at, I'm like, yo, it looked like the air just got taken out of him. And I'm like, Holyfield is a counter fighter to his heart. Why are you not faking this man? Let him throw his counter and get him. That's what you do to a counter fighter. And he wasn't doing that.
Well,
he was doing that the second fight
right.
before everything went chaotic. And I watched that. And I'm going, oh shoot, Mike's got the plan. But then everything went nuts.
When he got headbutted.
Yeah,
Allegedly.
where all that stuff happened.
Right.
But I mean, it was the psychological component to me. In my opinion, the psychological component behind both of those fights caused those outcomes. But, you know, Holyfield, man, that dude, his heart is just something else. You know, and you saw a lot of, you know, there's a lot of complexity within that whole thing. But from my perspective, I think it was a psychological thing that was the biggest obstacle.
Well, I mean, the whole ear biting thing was crazy. Something you've never seen in boxing before or after on a grand scale.
Right.
You know, not to say that guys didn't get their ears bit in the Golden Gloves or whatever, but I mean,
I was.
but I'm saying like a championship fight when someone lost a chunk of their ear.
Yeah.
You just never heard of this before.
I was the happiest man on the planet when Mike Tyson bit his ear off. I'll tell you why.
Tell me why.
Think about this. The way I played Mike Tyson, I was playing a lot of me. And what I saw, right? I had to play it blind. Nobody had any footage of Mike Tyson going berserk before I did that movie. I didn't have no footage of that, right? But what I played when he went off in the store, there was a convenience store, and things that I had people from Mike Tyson's camp going, man, that's full of shit, man. Mike don't act like that, this and that. And I'm like, so I'm blind on this, right? There's no, I seem unjustified. The levels I went to, and that scene where I'll go off on the sparring partners, and I just go berserk. Right? No proof till then. I'm like, there it is.
There it is.
That's what I was playing. Because I felt like, I understand it because that was me. I had I had the worst temper I've ever seen any other human have. I was playing that. I felt like, I think we both have that. And it's something I learned to tap into in fighting and everything else. You know what I mean? I feel like that's that fire that's inside. I mean, it's a gift. Because when I have to dig deep and have to push through something or whatever, I use that. But, that fire can cook the food or burn the house down,
Well, you mentioned Don King. I had Zab Judah on my show recently. And he told me an interesting story how he ended up getting managed by Don King. And he said how Tyson tried to warn him. Yeah. It was like, well, yeah, but I got my lawyers and I got my manager. And sure enough, same thing. Yeah. He got short of like $1.5 million or something like that. What was that one thing where you're like, man, I can't believe
not making your money and getting your check and the shit don't say what you negotiated?
Really?
That's when me goes back to Brownsville. Then the Brownsville come out. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Well, how much did he short you?
$1.5 million.
He shorted you $1.5 million.
Yeah. So he got his cut. Everybody got their money. He got his cut and still took another $1.5 million.
Wow.
My best friend was Frankie Lyles.
Okay.
He was super middleweight champion of the world, WBA super middleweight. And he was, he had Don King as a promoter and manager. And I know, Don would pay him in cars because... Because, Frankie was falling for the okie doke,
Which are probably leased in Don King's name. So he's really just driving around like, Don's cars.
That's when my best friend, that's why, I was so deep into the boxing. That's the connection I had with Tyson. That's why he'd be able to put us on the phone together when he was incarcerated, and I could talk to him about stuff involving the script and everything. But I trained with Frankie, all his camps, and with Manuel Stewart. That's why I know with Tommy Hearns and training with him. I've been blessed with a lot of knowledge. So I mean, I'm my hands, I would be training with top-notch boxers. So when I would go into the MMA or martial art thing, you know, I had the skills, the boxing skills, on top of the martial arts skills. So I just loved it, man. It's like I was just, you know, I'm a fight nerd. So yeah, I'm always been in part of those worlds.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about in the Zab Judah interview was Zab feels that he gave Mayweather his only knockdown because his glove touched the mat.
Right.
Second round, Floyd may or may not have gotten knocked down. His glove touched the ground, and the referee called it a slip. In retrospect, do you think it was a knockdown or not?
Shit, I ain't got to think. The whole world know. You know what I'm saying? In boxing, if your glove touches the ground, that is a knockdown.
Whereas it didn't count as a knockdown.
Right.
And he felt that it was because they were fighting in Vegas and, you know, the refs always protected Mayweather and so forth. Did you see that fight?
Hell yeah. Man, you're talking to a fight nerd. Hell yeah, I saw that. That was the only dude faster than Floyd Mayweather.
Zab Judah was faster.
Zab Judah is faster than Floyd Mayweather. Oh, what's up, man? Zab Judah.
What's up, brother? How are you?
All right. Well, we was just talking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's up?
yeah, all respect to you and your dad, man. Oh man. You know,
Man, I appreciate you, man. Word up, appreciate you.
definitely. Yeah, I was bragging on you, man, how you was the kid, cat faster than Floyd. You know?
Right.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know why I tell people all the time, you know what I'm saying? Like, people always say, Zab, you don't get mad about the Mayweather fight, how they robbed you and did this and that. I said, nah. I said, the reason why I never get mad or upset is because one thing about life is you can, no matter what happens, you can never fool the people. I said, one thing about it, you can never fool people. So if people like you and people like the rest of the people I meet in the world, you know, me and Floyd, that fight was like 15 years ago. People
Right.
still 15 years to be like, boy, listen, I don't give a shit what the decision was, what they said. This was my take on and you know what I'm saying? That means a lot to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, hey, much respect, bro. Much respect. Was one of the reasons why I say Floyd Mayweather is the baddest boxer ever, because he can change strategy right there in the middle of the round. So he wasn't faster than Zab, but he would fake Zab, because Zab was countering him. He would make Zab throw that counter and catch him, just like I was talking about the whole situation with, I was expecting Mike to do that to Holyfield. But so when Floyd made that adjustment, unfortunately, Zab never made the adjustment to the adjustment. And so you see the rest of the way that fight came out. I mean, I think Floyd's one of the only people that don't even need a corner man. You know, he's got so many different ways to fight. That's why I rate him number one.
Right. Then that brawl at the end.
And I tell you
Remember
something.
that?
Yeah, but check it out. No matter what Floyd you see.
And he said that was another thing, because he said that Floyd should have been eliminated because his trainer walked into the ring to confront him.
Yeah, he's got.
Which should have been a disqualification.
He's got a legitimate thing, but check Floyd. Peep Floyd real quick. Floyd can be outlandish and everything else, right? But when the shit goes down, he's the calmest cat.
Oh, yeah, he took a step
He's
back.
like-
He said, nope.
He's just watching this stuff like all the time.
I think he pulled out some popcorn.
Yeah, he's like, the day of the fight is none of that craziness, right? And then like, even meeting that dude, it's like, he's so like mellow, but he does all this other stuff, you know? I mean, I kind of feel like that to some degree with Don King. Don King, orifice, just making up words and everything else. First time I meet that cat, right? I mean, like I said, he was Frankie's promoter, right? He flew us out, and I had a little motel room. Frankie had a little motel room. Frankie's calling me, hey, we're gonna go get Don. We're gonna go have breakfast. I'm like, okay, cool. So he comes to, Frankie's room is like 2 doors away. He comes to get me. right? And so I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna go pick up Don King at his room. And I'm like, damn, like what part of the hotel is he? He's probably in a wing or whatever. No, Don King's room is between ours. And we getting Don and we go, and it was like, what? And to know Don King, like, wait a minute, like the number 2 and 3 person in his hierarchy is his adopted son and his daughter, Denise, I believe was her name. But those are his right and left hand people. Don's been at the time married 35 years, and I'm going, this is not the cat that just and I'm like, is this a show?
Well, even his hair. I mean,
right, that whole thing, and I'm like,
it's a whole persona.
Oh shoot, man!
You do know that he killed somebody, though, right?
Yeah. Everybody knows that.
He did time for murder.
Yeah, but and so that was like before,
which was over a bar fight or something stupid like that.
Yeah, Cleveland, like it's like there's because I just kind of was peeping the fact that like, hey, this guy has this public persona that doesn't match with the private one, right? And so and I've been around him a number of times, and I'm going, man, it's like an uncle, like he's just regular. And I look at him like this guy could be driving into anything he wants, and every time you see him dressed, it's strings coming out the damn jacket. Some old ass jacket. I'm like, it's like this weird dichotomy when you look, kind of behind the curtain.
Yeah. Well, didn't Mike Tyson beat him up at one point?
This is what I heard. I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But I kind of feel like, hey, if Don King broke the law, there's a lot of people who would be there to lock his ass up. So there's something that we don't know.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Well, our last interview made some noise, like usual.
Yeah.
There was a part we talked about how Shaolin monks are not as authentic as people think they are.
Right.
How they were just manufactured by China.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a bunch of Shaolin monks like message me and want to get on the show to counter what you said.
Okay.
Prove you wrong and so forth. They're like, we respect Michael, but what he's saying is not true and so forth.
You could Google it. I mean, I'm not saying nothing that deep. You could Google that shit. I mean, there's a reason why you've never seen a movie where there's Shaolin monks in a car. There's a reason. That's because it burned down 400 years ago. There's no argument to that. I know it's like, hey, okay, I'm sorry it hurt your feelings, but I happen to be speaking to people who like can use the knowledge of saying, oh, wow, that's interesting. I think it's fascinating about just human nature. It fascinates me. It fascinates you that people want to believe in something that's a little bit more supernatural. They want to believe ninjas can do magic. It's fun. They want to believe Bruce Lee could beat up everybody. It's fun. I get it. But there's another side that's reality. That's like, hey, I'm not trying to shit on what you're doing. I'm just saying, hey, this is interesting when you look at it like this. That's just what it is. And you can be upset about it, or you could just research it, man. This is the world of Google.
Right. Well, in another part of that interview, you talked about Kimbo Slice and working with him and so forth.
Yeah.
And a UFC fighter that I had never heard of named Mike Perry was upset over some of the things you said. And, Mike Perry's a white guy.
Yeah.
And he called you a bitch ass N-word.
Yeah.
On Twitter. And stood behind it.
Yeah, listen. I mean, let me tell you, I've gone to people's gyms and been like, what's up? In a second. This cat, well, I basically looked into it and I said, let me check on this. And then I realized, oh, my man is not well. In my YouTube channel, right? I'm doing I have an assistant named Alan Joban who is a UFC fighter, and I've trained with Alan for, how to help him out. Alan beat the shit out of Mike Perry. You could look at it. It's like he beat the hell out of Mike Perry. Mike Perry is just, it's kind of jacked up because on one level, why I chose not to speak about anything else, because my man, he doesn't know anything. He may have a friendship with Kimbo Slice, and he feels like I disrespected Kimbo. I didn't. I never told what Kimbo actually did say to me, all right? Which is, you ask Icy Mike, who was with Kimbo all the time. And when me and Kimbo would try to train together, if I said what Kimbo actually said to me, he'd really be pissed off. But Kimbo didn't have ego. He was really trying to learn what he needed to do to become a better fighter. People like Boss Rutan try to help him out, try to get him the skills to get him on that next level. Yeah, I sparred with Kimbo. I like to talk about how somebody clowned me, or like what people did against me that was good. Like I even mentioned in that same thing where one time me and Billy Blanks were clowning around and he swept me and hit me before I hit the ground. We were clowning around, we were having fun. And I'll brag about how one of the worst sparring matches I've ever had was with Mike Bisping, and I ran out of gas after the first round. But like I don't like to sound like I can beat the hell out. I won't talk about that stuff so much. That's weak. But this whole thing with this guy Mike Perry, there's a part of me that goes, man, my heart goes out to fighters. They put their butts on the line. But once that crowd dies down, a lot of these fans, I say, hey man, check on them then. Because that's when they really need your support. I feel like Mike Perry, I hope, even though he said that N-word thing, and if I see him, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I would love to see that dude. He doesn't know what he's... Let me just...
Because he's actually offering to fight you.
Listen.
He said, so fight me or pay me.
He's an idiot. Okay. He's an idiot.
Well, and he weighs...
It's like he's so out of... I'm like, look,
right.
If he could stop... I could tell him what I'm going to hit him with, and he can't stop it.
Okay, and let me just say, he weighs 170 pounds, and you weigh
230.
230. So you got 50 pounds on him, which is not everything, because I weigh more than him, and he could whip my ass, right? But I'm not a fighter.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. When you don't have the weight, I mean, it's a whole big difference. I mean, like, come on, man. I fight heavyweights that can hit me full blast. So you like weigh less, and you think you're gonna hurt me? It's like, okay, yeah. So let's just box. You think you could? Oh, you can stop. You can stop it. Like you can stop what I'm doing. Okay, let's see. Let's have it. I could do, but it's like, is that worth my time? Is that worth my time?
Okay, so what happens if you run into him? If he just walks in right now and sits down next to you, what'll happen?
My thing is like, I say, hey, come to the gym. I'll go to your like. Let's whatever, and let's see you speak all like that. There's a part of me that's like, I hate hearing myself sound like that because it's beneath me. I don't like people trying to bully anybody and talking craziness. So my thing was like, yo, come holler at me. You could DM me. It's not a problem. I'm sure you come to LA. It ain't that hard. It ain't that hard. But then I'm telling you, if I hurt this dude, I'm not gonna be proud of it, and I'm not gonna be bragging on it. It's like, there's part of me that's like, would feel, come on, man, like, come on. Like, he doesn't, I seen what his skill set looks like. He needs help. But I think he's going to need a lot more help than that in life. I think he's his biggest enemy. And I'm not his problem. He's his biggest problem.
I mean,
you know?
He was a UFC fighter, right?
Yeah.
Will the UFC work with someone who throws out racist statements like that? Like,
Yeah,
remember that one, like recently there was that one NASCAR driver
Mm-hmm.
who was like on like Twitch or playing video games and he threw out the N-word. And instantly, NASCAR dropped him, Ford dropped him, it was done.
Yeah.
So why would UFC book a guy that's saying racist shit like
probably
this?
not. It's ignorant. I mean, Dana White is way beyond that. Dana would not support that stuff.
So he just ruined his own UFC career by saying
so you know, when he does that, I'm like, because before he even said that, I was like, you know what? I wish you well. I'm gonna step back here because I looked into it and I saw him threatening. He was threatening another heavyweight, the dude that does a podcast with Joe Rogan, right? Brendan Schaub. I'm like, you're threatening Brendan Schaub? Like he'll hurt you, man. Like, so I said, oh, I see. The dude's got, he's got some issues. He's got problems. So that's why I was like, let me just step back. I wish you well. Keep it pushing. And then he starts with the whole N-word thing. Now it's like, now it's gonna be interesting if I see you. It's gonna be interesting if I see you. Because before I was just like, whatever, just go about your business. Hey, it'd be interesting. So this whole fight me for money, come on, man. I've been beyond that since I've been fighting professionals since I was 17. I get in the ring with the best people that I could find. I'm like always talking about when Dan Cormier comes to town. I've been asking to try to spar with John Jones. I love this thing. What I do, I enjoy, exchanging skill and knowledge and all that type of stuff. Even sparring with Mike Perry, that would be somebody who's like so. I don't think I've ever sparred or fought with anybody with that lack of skill. I mean, honestly. So it's just like a paper, like what? Like that's not what I do. I'm not a professional fighter. Gladly. Early on, I saw what professional fighters' lifestyles was. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want any part of this. It doesn't match up to me.
You know a lot of fighters personally, right?
Mm-hmm. Since I was a teenager.
Yeah. You're the only one that I really know closely.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a well-balanced person. But when you look at fighters as a whole, people who put food on their table by beating other people up.
Yeah.
How many of them are really imbalanced? For example, there was the story about War Machine.
Yeah.
Who beat up his porn star ex-girlfriend and her new boyfriend or the guy that was at their house, to the point where he now is doing life in prison. He fucked them up so bad. Life in prison over beating somebody up. I've never even really heard about this. And he, of course, said he's innocent. He was fighting for his own life, which is nonsense.
Yeah.
But how many of these guys have these War Machine type triggers that like, okay, you want me to turn this on in the ring, but you want me to be a normal person outside of the ring. Life doesn't really work that way.
Yeah, man. Just early on, some of my best friends were fighters, and there's such a part of my heart that knows that, like, for me, I loved it. So that's why my whole philosophy was, I can do what I'm doing for a living and working on my career, and find out, oh, this guy won this championship. Go to his gym and train with him, spar with him. That's what I've been doing. Since I was 17, I went. Bill Superfoot Wallace was the undisputed, the baddest fighter on the planet, right? I became a sparring partner with him when I was 17. He was undefeated, middleweight champion. Also, Joe Louis, there's a Joe, Lewis, heavyweight champion, rock solid. one of the baddest, most dangerous fighters there were. I went to North Carolina to train and with him and his crazy bunch of folks, and later became friends and did seminars with him. Maurice Smith was the UFC champion. When I went to Seattle to train and spar with him in his gym. So that's what I've done my entire life. So I've always wanted to test myself against the best people, and the respect I've garnered from that, and that's why usually people don't call me out, because they know I really do this, and it's not about an ego thing. It's about getting better and exchanging knowledge. I love the shit. So with the boxing and everything else, I've always done that, and I still do it, right? So that's my philosophy. The martial arts ethic and philosophy is bettering yourself. In martial arts and fight is a tool for that. There's a lot of folks who might have been into the sport aspect of it because of whatever reason. There could be something that they're compensating. I mean, not saying everybody has any kind of psychological damage, but a lot of them might, a lot of the people who fight for a living, there are other things that go along with that. When you say fighter arrested, there's a lot of response to that.
Yeah.
But these fighters that you love, sometimes I feel like, man, love them when they step out of the ring, because they're providing this thing for you that everybody's like, yeah, man, he's my man or whatever. But I happen to know these people outside of the ring, and sometimes the next chapter in their life doesn't look so sweet.
Right. So,
if
you were to say what percentage of fighters that could get triggered on a War Machine level, where they just completely...
No, I say the War Machine thing is a rare situation.
It is.
Yeah, it's a rare situation, because when people are doing... Because War Machine, he really didn't do it at a high level. Really.
He was not a major.
No, he wasn't. The reason you know him is because he flipped the hell in what he did.
Yeah.
But, he's got, he is not indicative of the hierarchy, of the top level.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but as fighters, where, some of the most accomplished UFC fighters, if you weren't a follower of UFC, you may not know who they are now. And they've achieved things that were gargantuan in that world. So I've seen this type of stuff for a long time coming up, and I go, oh, so-and-so is a champion, but who outside of this room knows that? That wasn't something, and then I see what the money is like, and I will see what the boxing money was like, and I'm like, it ain't no comparison. So, when people ask, well, how come you didn't want to fight for the UFC? Because I want to take care of my family, and I don't want to be like absolutely broke in 2 years. Not saying they all do, but look at the majority.
No, right. I mean, for every Tito Ortiz that does okay, there's 1,000 guys that are barely making it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even the Tito Ortizes, you may not know what's really happening in their life.
Yeah.
And then you think about, okay, what's the next chapter? He's going to live the next 10 years. What are those 10 years going to look like if there's not a great plan?
Oh, yeah, no. I mean, I interviewed him. He had a ton of operations.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had 8 surgeries myself through my career. I've had ACL replaced my left knee, ACL replaced my right knee, 50% of my meniscus taken on my right knee, L45, S1 fused in my lower back, T3, T2, T2, T1, T1, C7 disc replacement, C7, C6 fuse, C6, C5 fuse, C5, C4 disc replacement, and a reattached retina, and probably about maybe 10 to 12 concussions. And, that's probably about as much damage as I sustained, but I continue to do it because I love it.
Ton of operations.
Yeah, I interviewed him about, 6 days ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I interviewed him for Black Belt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because a lot of these guys, like I know him from Wild Card. We training in the gym together. So yeah, but like I've been close to fighters' lifestyles my entire life, and I go, hey, God bless them. Not the lifestyle I want at all. but I'm not shitting on them. If it's what you want to do, like I said, I was just talking. We were talking about the whole correctional officer. I ain't shitting on them. If that's what you're trying to do, not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build something, a career in the industry that I've trained for, and I'm doing well in it. So that's not a comparison.
Well, you're actually the reason why Michael Clarke Duncan became an actor.
Yeah.
You forced him into it?
Yep. Man, like this like a full circle thing. Like, okay, I met Michael Clarke Duncan through Frankie. Frankie Lyles. Michael Clarke Duncan was living on Frankie's couch, right? And Frankie lived right there on Willis, not too far from here. And I was introduced to Michael. Michael was, it was rough. He was like, sometimes he was staying in his own storage facility. So Frankie was real cool with Martin Lawrence, because I was cool with Martin and one of Martin's best friends and boxer. He was a professional boxer named Kenny. We all were like part of this clique, and we hooked Mike in. Well, really, Frankie hooked Mike into Martin, and Martin got him a security job for the Martin show and at Universal. And so Frankie, so I know Michael from that. We'd hang out, to the gym or whatever. We like look out for Mike. And I just said to Mike one day, I'm like, yeah, man, you should really think about acting, because he had this gregarious personality. And he's like, no, man, yeah, that's for you and Byron. Because Byron also was like, who played Bullhorn, who was like one of my other best friends. He always hooked up Mike too. They would take Mike to the gym. He would sometimes, he would spend the night over Byron's house. I took Mike Duncan to a guy named Alan Asher, who did portfolios or his headshots for $40-something. And I stood there and I made Mike take pictures, and I made him pose shirtless with a football. If Alan Asher is out there, yes, Asher, Mike has a football just so you can see the size difference. And then I gave Mike my resume. And I'm like, nobody's gonna care, nobody's gonna check out this resume. We changed one word from White to Duncan. That's all it was. And I said, because of your personality, people are gonna like you because of that. And so we started, I hooked him in. Another buddy of mine hooked him with Dolores Robinson, who's Holly Robinson's mom. And I'm telling you, within a couple of months, the first thing Mike got was a walk-on role on the Jamie Foxx show. And 5 months later, he was in Armageddon.
Well, he was in Friday. Yeah, the movie Friday.
Okay.
He was in it.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, remember when Debo knocks out Red?
Uh-huh.
And they're all playing dice?
Uh-huh.
Michael Clarke Duncan is right there playing dice with him.
Maybe. I mean,
definitely.
Yeah. I didn't.
He didn't say anything. He was like, "Oh,
that might have been some background work or whatever." But I'm just talking about as far as
Armageddon was his first. Yeah.
Yeah. So right after then, Mike started rolling. I mean, we have barbecues, and I don't care if you're talking about chicken. Mike would be like, "Yeah, speaking of chicken, Tom Hanks and I," and I'm like, we'd be like, "Stop that shit, man."
The Green Mile. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's
he just went like this.
That's when he went over the top.
Yeah.
When he did the Green Mile, he was actually nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
For Best Supporting Actor.
Mike just and Frankie and Byron got a little bit salty with him because he kind of was acting a little brand new. And then Mike would say things on Jay Leno or whatever, some talk shows, and he'd change up his background a little bit. I was like, okay, that's cool. If you created a different background, I started acting or whatever, that is all good, because that's my friend, man. It's like, you ain't got to shout me out. My thing is like, I did this, because I felt like you know me. I'm like, if I could help, man, that's part of who I am. So, but I was always proud that I had kind of got Mike into it. I was a little mad at Mike only when he would change up the story a little bit too much. Like he would say that he was, that he was sleeping on my couch. Nah, he was. Frankie and Byron really was looking out for him. I just kind of was like, hey man, kind of introduced him to the acting thing. But the only time I really, really got salty is because Sammy McKinney, who's our friend that hooked him with his manager, was ill. And the only thing I ever asked Mike, I never asked for anything. I'm like, call Sam. He hadn't heard from you in years, man. And just tell him, hey, whatever, and just thank him, whatever. And I don't think he did that, which kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I was like, okay, do your thing. But I was always proud of the hand I had in helping him on his way, because that still makes me proud to this day.
Well, he died in 2012 at the age of 54.
Yeah,
that's really young,
bro. Man, I'm telling you something, man. That ego shit, I've never seen anybody that gets caught up in their own ego be happy. At times I'd run into Mike and be like, oh, I keep it pushing. But he's like, man, he had a lot of things that he was upset about in life.
Really?
Yeah, but it all made sense because there's people that was really looking out for you. And I snapped one time because we were on the phone and he's like, hey man, I got a gym at the house. You got to come hang out. And he said something, and he said the words, my good friend, The Rock. And I was like, I lost it. I was like, I lost it. And I'm like, your good friend, The Rock? I don't want to speak, I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but this is just what I'm saying. It's just about loving the people who got your back. Frankie's your good friend. Byron's your good friend. Dwayne Johnson, I think, is an exemplary person, personally, from my perspective. We have a lot of mutual friends. But when he said, my good friend, The Rock, I'm like, I don't know if he knows you like everybody else, or when you talk throwing Tom Hanks' name. I love the brother, but he got caught up in what that whole Hollywood thing is. It's the same thing that people say, well, damn, Mike, how come you're not much further than you? It's all good, man, because I love the people I'm around. I love being able to look at myself in the mirror. And I never sold out to know, have some Hollywood mogul. And there's a lot of them that wanted to have me in their entourage and say, I got one of them. And I'm like, I ain't your friend, man. I ain't your friend. Thank you for the invite, but nah, man. It's just like, hey, if we talking about some business stuff, that's cool. But nah. I never once hung out with somebody because of their influence, and I'm glad I didn't, because I got where I am based on my own talent and effort, and I made good friends, real friends. And that whole, you hear about this, it's who you know in Hollywood. If you want to play that game, but that game comes at a cost. I ain't paid that cost, which I'm glad.
Okay, I just found out something interesting as I'm talking to you. Michael was engaged to Omarosa.
Yes, he was.
Who was part of Trump's cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently after he died, she was under suspicion for changing his will. Did you know about this?
Yeah. I heard that, yeah.
You know about this, huh?
Kind of goes with the territory, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, there's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot of movies that made of things like that. But really, when it comes down to it, man, you're lucky to have people in your corner, people that you love and love you. I don't give a shit. That's the thing that's most important. I don't care if you're a billionaire or whatever. It don't mean nothing to me. It's about the people I love and who love me. plain and simple, right? So a lot of people don't, unfortunately, they learn the hard way, and they wrap themselves around people, entourages, and people that build up their ego and tell them, yeah, you're right, and all that type of stuff. I've seen it happen too many times. And nobody's happy surrounding themselves with a bunch of ass kissers.
Yeah, I mean, not only was she suspected of changing his will, they also claimed that Omarosa manipulated Duncan in his final days, lied about her engagement, sold his belongings without the family's knowledge.
I don't know.
She was selling his stuff off as he was about to die. Okay.
I don't know. I didn't.
This is who was helping to run our country. Well, I just interviewed Mark Henry.
Yeah.
And he was actually a pallbearer in Michael Clarke Duncan's funeral. And he was just talking about how much respect he had for him. He was like, here's another guy that looked like me that, he said he actually told him he loved him and, and so forth. They were like extremely close. I assume you guys are really close?
Very close. Whenever I went to LA, I would stay with Michael. He was a big wrestling fan, befriended me, and it was like looking in a mirror. I had never met another man that was so big and burly, that was so damn nice in my life. And like I had never told another dude outside of my family that I loved him. And Michael, I was like, hey man, don't make this weird, because he started laughing. I said, man, I just love being around you, man. You like one of the nicest people I ever met in my life. I was like, I love you like a brother. I was like, I hope we can, stay like this forever. And he was like, and I was like, come on, man, don't make it weird. Don't make it weird.
Mark Henry was known as the strongest man in the world at one point.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with this whole scene of strongman and so forth. Seems like a whole different ball game than fighting.
Yeah.
One of the guys I met at your house, he had like the world record for bench press.
Yeah, he was one of the strongest men in the world. He was Scott Mendelson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy does not look human.
Yeah. He
looks like an actual monster out of
what you see of Scott
out of a video game, pretty much.
Scott's probably 75 pounds lighter than he was, like, say, 5 years ago. He really, like, you shake his hand, it's like shaking the hand of a statue. Scott's ridiculous. And he's you talk to him, he's like a scientist, man. These guys are not just big muscle heads.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows more than doctors about a lot of that kind of supplementation and all that type of thing.
Well, what was interesting about our conversation with Mark Henry was he went to the Olympics twice and didn't win any medals both times. And I said, well, does that bother you at all? And he said, no. And he explained why. Because essentially during the Olympics, all the guys that were winning, like from the Eastern Bloc countries, they were all steroided up. Mm-hmm. And he said that most of those guys that he lost to are all dead now. Mm. Whereas he always competed in competitions that were drug tested.
Right.
So he was like the natural champion in a bunch of his competitions. But there's another side. There's a whole other set of competitions that they don't drug test.
Yeah.
So you assume that everyone just juices at that point.
Yeah.
Such a weird world when you really think about it. Like, you're really gonna inject all these steroids and human growth hormone into your body just so you could win a medal.
Yeah, bro. And it don't match up. See,
like, and they're not even like, these guys aren't millionaires. Like,
bro, like, I'm telling you that with the stuff I was just talking about, with weightlifting, with bodybuilding, with martial arts, with a lot of that type of stuff, it don't pay.
Yeah.
It don't pay nearly what you might think.
Yeah.
And you can win something that says U.S. Open champion, this and that, and whatever. But it's like, you and the people that was in the gym only know that. So in bodybuilding, man, that's a whole nother level, people doing stuff to themselves, competing, and even the top prize is like only one guy gets that, and then everybody else gets what?
What's the top prize in those competitions?
It keeps going up, but for a long time it was like 100,000, 200,000, all that. You know, it was a trip. It was 100,000 as top prize in the Arnold and Mr. Olympia and things like, you know, and then usually that person had to spend about 80,000 in drugs that year.
So they're just breaking even.
And this is like I'm telling you, like that. I'm very connected with that world as well. My
Okay.
oldest friend in the world is Troy Alves. He was one of the elite bodybuilders. I knew a lot of the very top bodybuilders. And that is a fascinating world. But again, bro, it comes back to this whole psychological thing. Not saying everybody, but there's a lot of them there to put all the stuff in my body and be big as hell. You know, you got to kind of say, well, what makes somebody want to do that?
Yeah, I'm looking up Troy Alves right now.
Yeah.
He's huge.
Yeah,
Damn.
Troy actually started karate before me. I would go to him to his class with his brother, right? When we were kids. I go to his class with his brother. My mother wouldn't put me in karate. I would watch the class. I'd watch his class and I'd watch the advanced class off on the side, and then his mother would pick us all up and we'd take them back home. I would practice every damn day. And I got to the point where I knew all that he knew and the advanced class. And one day, him and his brother came to me on the sidelines, was asking me what the next move was. And the instructor was like, why does he know? And he's like, well, who taught you? I'm like, no, you did, basically. And he says, show me. And I gave him a little demonstration. And from that point on, he says, you can come here, you're welcome to come here, and you don't have to pay.
Mm.
That was really the start of me getting into technical martial arts classes. Troy quit. You know, I stayed, and the rest is history. Yeah, because like I say, man, you know, the fighters, man, they're a breed, they're a unique breed that we all love, and you know what's a trip I always point out in a male-dominated society, it's the fighters who take over the room. I mean, you can have dignitaries, you can have like rich people, whatever, but there's something about someone who has the physical ability over another, the pugilist that everybody looks at, you know, in a room full of stars. And so that's the part of me that has love for all fighters, even if I disagree with them or whatever. Even if they say dumb shit, you know, whatever, you know, like with the whole thing that we were talking about before, there's still a place in my heart that respects that. And I like to uplift that. That's why I have so many fighters in the movies that I do. I probably have like over 12 different UFC fighters in movies that I've directed or gotten part of, because my heart is like, I really want them to find success after their fight career.
Yeah.
You know, because you know a lot of folks ain't thinking about that.
Well, speaking of movies, The Outlaw Johnny Black is almost done.
Yeah.
Almost done.
Well, I shot it, and we're just doing the editing and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, there's a few more cameos. Can we say who the cameos are, or is that going to be a surprise?
Some of them. I mean, some of the cameos I don't want to say.
I know about some. That's why I'm saying
about some of them, yeah.
I know about all the cameos, but do you want to put it out or not?
No. I could tell folks who's in. I mean, like, you know, I got you know, Cowboy Cerrone's in it, Randy Couture, Josh Barnett. We got Jill Scott. We got a lot of heavyweight people. But then there's some other people that I just want to keep it silent until the movie comes out. That, you know, people was like, oh shoot. There's
a very big name in it that you're not mentioning right now.
Yeah,
and the scene is crazy when you described it.
Right, yeah. So, you know, it's my follow-up to Black Dynamite.
Right.
So just like with Black Dynamite, you know, here's another scene. It's like, oh shoot, there's so-and-so. You know, that. So we keeping that going on, but we keeping some secrets though.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, you have another movie, Take Back.
Yeah.
with Mickey Rourke
Yeah.
and your wife.
Mickey Rourke and my wife, James Russo. Yeah, it's that's something that we're getting ready to shoot.
Well,
Yeah.
from what I understand, all of Hollywood is pretty much shut down right now. Is that accurate?
Well, Hollywood, but there are places that are open, so you just travel to those places.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
So people are actually filming right now in certain places?
Yeah, they're starting to.
Aha.
Yeah, they're starting to. Some places are opened up, and if you have it pretty sequestered, it's not that bad a deal. Like, hey, like say I have a studio, you have a studio, I'm shooting right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you add a few other people and you have a scene. So basically, that's what it is. So but it's the studios that's a monstrosity.
Yeah.
So that involves in a lot more high, bureaucracy and everything else. But this is an independent film. So we got some control of it. And even with my editing process of the movie I directed, I still can do that, virtually from home.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. You used to hang out with Tupac.
Yeah. It's a trip, man. Well, I used to play pool. Like, I used to compete. I mean, I was, I did pool tournaments. I mean, pool was one of my things.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you like a pool hustler at one point?
Yeah, it was financial aid at one point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, seriously. I grew up in the hood being taught by like gangsters and people who really, I really, got deep into it. I'd play left-handed and right-handed. Like I was better.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah, I learned it. I learned the hustle of it, and I kept it up for a long time. I mean, even when I'd be in China, I would play snooker, which is, it's like when you play snooker, going back to regular 9-ball and 8-ball, it's like you kill folks because it's almost like playing basketball with a smaller rim. And snooker is almost like, a combination of chess and pool. It's a hell of a game. I had a snooker table. I got so into it, I had a snooker table at my house. And so I had a little kind of a thing going on with Rick James. Rick James had, he liked pool, and what Rick would do, because we were friends at the time, right? Rick would get folks like NBA players, whatever, come through his house, and he'd sneak away and call me to come tip in, like, just in the neighborhood, that whole thing. And we get folks. And I was, starts to be a wager and everything else. So that was a little fun. But like there'd be pool games at his house. Eddie Murphy, like still Johnny Gill, he's a little mad at me. Paul Pierce. Rick was really trying to get he was really trying to get Charles Barkley and Michael Jordan, because they like to bet a lot. And
yeah. I mean, I don't know if you're watching The Last Dance right now on ESPN, but Jordan had a very interesting gambling thing going on. Where he just bet everybody.
Yeah,
didn't care. Yeah, $1,000, $1,000, 100,000, whatever.
Yeah, but Rick really was. He had them in the crosshairs and was like, "Yeah, man, I'm gonna try to get." Like, but I don't know how I got into this. Yeah, but I would. Okay, yeah, this is what it is. Like, cause I used to play at a place called Hollywood Athletic Club a lot, and that's where I forgot how I first met Tupac, but I know we were playing in a VIP thing, and a lot of people was trying to get me because I was getting a lot of people, and I was having fun with it. But Tupac and I would play, and we every now and then would meet up there. And what was interesting is that it felt like, from my perspective, it was a kind of a weird thing with Tupac. Like, we would play, or we'd hang out, go hang, and people would say, your friend looks a lot like Tupac, but nobody ever thought it was him, because the side of him that I knew was so different from what the whole gangster thing. Because I speak the way I speak, no matter who I'm with, right? And so I'm kind of like a little bit of a nerd and mixed with, like I'm weird because the way I speak is, you go like, what is that? Like, I sound like I'm from college, but the street, but this, like, and so I think that encouraged Tupac, that side of him that was goofy. He felt like, oh, I could just be myself. And so people were like, oh, that guy's not Tupac. Tupac's not that goofy. But, the thing was, like, there'd be times where, Tupac and I, we would do goofy shit like challenge each other with multiplication rock, the shit that was on Schoolhouse Rock and shit like. He would be like just a different kind of dude, right? But then like we would be playing and all of a sudden he'd go back into, yeah, nigga, I'm a good, and I'm like, somebody black must have walked into the room. Yep, there it is. Yep.
Well,
It was kind of like he would turn that on and off. It was like, I say it's like, imagine if Al Pacino kept in Scarface mode for the purposes of other people around him.
Yeah, well, one of the theories that people have is that after he did Juice, he kind of became Bishop.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. This dude was a natural actor.
Right.
Like imagine Henry Winkler staying in the Fonz character. You know what I mean? He could switch into that. And I think that's, what took him out. There's a lot of things I feel with rappers. A lot of the most tough guys don't sit around going, this rhymes with that. A lot of these guys, when you really see them and you really experience them, they're not this gangster that you thought they were. I would be around a lot of these guys, man. Like Dr. Dre, I knew him. We'd see each other in the gym and it was always respect and his people, whatever. We acknowledge each other. Then later, the Tyson movie comes out and he's like, oh shit, man, I didn't know you was even an actor. It was just all on this respect thing. And then I kind of arrived in the Hollywood thing and I got to know these cats, for real. And Snoop and I'm like, this guy is not a gangster. He's a really nice person. I think it's not news now. He obviously is somebody who's, can play on both worlds. He's multilingual. Of course he knows the streets. But then what his true heart is, he's this gregarious, nice guy, man. And he's a family guy and he's somebody who's lovable, right? That's what's within most of us. A lot of the people in the street. That's why we turn to our art to save us. And that was our saving grace and our armor, right? So, the real thugs are not making shit rhyme. I feel like there's not many rappers I feel like that really fighters deep down. The only two that I say if I had to have a rapper beside me in a fight, Tretch.
Yeah.
Tretch is like, and he's not trying to play game. No, Tretch is, he's real. Like, Fat Joe. I know that when you're around it, you
50 Cent would be one of those.
Maybe. I really don't know.
I think so.
I really don't know him. I don't know.
But Fat Joe, I've interviewed a bunch of times. Yeah, I can see that with Fat Joe.
Yeah. But
Fat Joe in our last interview said that if a man told him to suck his dick, he'd probably stab him right now.
What is it in New York? I feel this is a New York thing. What is it about the word suck my dick that gets people so riled up? I don't understand it.
But you say it, you know what I mean? You tell another man, suck my dick.
What does that even mean, though? That's like...
That means suck my dick. That means it's a different type of thing, bro.
But that don't even sound appealing.
Probably
what I mean? Like
disrespectful shit they invented to say.
Like, yeah, he sucked my dick.
I mean,
give me a high five.
Not justified.
Hanging, okay.
Not justified in court. You can't go to court and say, yo, he said suck my dick, so I killed him.
It's some jail shit, right?
I'm gonna be honest with you. If somebody told me suck my dick right now in this hallway or something like that, I would stab him up or something right now.
You
Like,
would
I'm
stab
just being honest with you. I would really, really hurt this
Those
guy.
words are that serious to you.
Yeah.
Regardless of
Yeah.
his family and the repercussions, he said that right now he probably stabbed somebody.
Yeah. You know, I think it's a very small minority of real gangster rappers, in my opinion. Even though, of course, they're speaking about a culture.
Yeah.
Maybe there are more. I mean, the new stuff I don't follow.
Yeah. I'd put the baby in that category.
Yeah. See, that's one of those things where I just don't know.
I mean, the baby actually killed somebody at a Walmart who pulled out a gun on him and his family.
Yeah.
As well as another shooting incident in his house. And he's constantly getting into it with people these days. Gucci killed somebody, Gucci Mane. He killed someone who did a home invasion.
Yeah, it's, of course that could,
there's a handful.
Yeah, but think about it, man. Look at the situation with Tupac. Is he a gangster to his heart? No, I to this day, I don't think that. I think the problem is that he was in that world, and then he stayed with that character, and that's what got him.
I agree. I've had in conversations on camera with the Outlaws multiple times that say, did Tupac die gangbanging? When you look at that situation, and if you connect the fight at the MGM to the shooting that happened right afterwards, you could say that Tupac died gangbanging, because that situation with Orlando was a gang situation, and Pac wasn't a blood, wasn't, he was rolling with Suge, and he was associated with it.
But
you see what I'm saying?
That's like us. We not Crips or Bloods, but we could call 50 niggas up here, and half of them be Crips, half of them be Bloods. You know what I'm saying? And these is all my homies that I'ma ride with. You know what I'm saying? It's the same situation. You know what I mean? Pac was riding with him. You know what I mean? Just like they was riding with him. You know what I mean? If some shit kicked off, niggas would have been the first to ride for Pac, and he was the same way. He was riding with his homies, whoever it was. He could have been with, whoever that day. You know what I'm saying?
And to break it down even more simpler, me and you become good homies, and you get into a situation, and I defend you as a homie.
Yeah.
Take the gangbanger shit away. Yeah. Because you not a gangbanger, I'm not a gangbanger. You know what I'm saying? But you own VladTV. You know what I'm saying?
Your heels.
And niggas is on your heels, and I ride for you.
Yeah.
Did I die for VladTV? You know what I mean? Did I die a reporter? Did I die, a journalist? You know what I'm saying?
And they're like, well, it wasn't a gangbang thing. He was just
standing
up for his homies, and
Yeah, but standing up for, that's a behavior. Like
I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it. Tupac would be a massive entity today. He could affect politics today. He could affect presidential races.
Do you know how many people that when they get, where it's like I said, the revenge of the nerds. You're this person who probably looked up to gangsters, and now you're respected by them.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna covet that. There's a lot of people who get into the martial arts. Same deal. I've watched people go, okay, now you get to be martial arts in martial arts movies, and then that kind of takes you in another way. Like it kind of starts becoming too big to you. Like now it defines who you are, and now you're in trouble because that's not the truth. But if you're protecting the image that everybody has of you, I feel sorry for you.
You also knew Malik, who was Snoop's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Who killed that one guy that was threatening Snoop's life at the time.
Right. Yeah. I was.
They ended up beating that case.
Yeah, I know. I know a little too much. The fact is, it's kind of weird. Sometimes I feel like Forrest Gump because I'm like part of this little history, and I'm like, I'm training Malik, who is coming to me when that whole thing was happening, and I'm seeing Snoop in the right with the studio that right here in Van Nuys. It's just guy playing video games, just lovable kind of dude, but he's caught up in all of this stuff. Then I happen to know their judge, and which put me in an interesting place. Not much I'm going to say there, but I knew when 39 pieces of evidence mysteriously vanished.
Wait, evidence vanished from that trial.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's just this weird trajectory I had with, there's, the Robert Shapiro's who was in the boxing world a lot, and Robert Shapiro would get in the ring with folks.
That's OJ's lawyer?
OJ's lawyer.
Okay.
But I knew a lot of these cats, like in this crowd. Interesting crowd. But I happened to see a lot of interesting things and knew the behind the scenes of some crazy stuff. But man, it's a trip. When you got a bunch of powerful people around each other, they feel like they can say anything.
Mm.
And I'm sitting there going, they don't have any problem divulging stuff like amongst each other because it's like, who gonna tell on them?
Yeah.
I ain't. I'm like, this is like it, man. I'd be in parties, the fight parties. There's Sumner Redstone. There's Robert Evans, who was running Paramount. The people that be in the room, it's like to glimpse that kind of power and what they had control of. And I'm your friend's judge, and I'm like, you can say this? You can say this? Like, yo, man, it's a trip, man.
My last question, you talk about how people like Tupac had a very different persona off camera, but you mentioned that you were friends with Rick James.
Yes, yeah.
And from what I understand, Rick James's off-camera persona was pretty much the same as what you saw played out. For example, Darius McCrary was very close with Rick James.
Yeah.
That was like his godfather, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
He was with him the night before he died. And he told this crazy story about how he was at Eddie Murphy's house with Rick James. You heard the story before?
No.
We were at Eddie's house, and it was after one of Eddie's big premieres, and it was winding down. And the crazy thing about this story is he was completely sober. Matter of fact, we were drinking O'Doul's beer. I was drinking O'Doul's with him because he used to like to show me that you don't have to party, all the time to have a good time. So we were drinking O'Doul's beer. I'll never forget this. And so we were leaving, and he had this brand new fly ass Mercedes, man. It was one of the big ones. And he said, we were leaving, we said bye to Eddie, and Eddie just such a gracious host. He was sitting down. He finally decided to eat his food, And so he was sitting down. It was a good night. Everything came off right. And so Papa Rick says to me, give me the keys. I'm going to drive. And I looked, I said, huh? He said, I'm going to drive. I said, Papa Rick, because he had a stroke, and it left half, one side of his body paralyzed. So, man, he said, I was driving before you were a thought. Give me the keys. So when he got like that, I used to be like, all right, man, fine. So it was him, me, and his daughter, Ty James. We were in the car. Man, he threw the car in reverse, and he started the car, threw the car in reverse. Next thing I knew, and Eddie, it was this beautiful courtyard, beautiful fountain. Looked like something that came from the Venetian, the real Venetian, something that came from Italy. He must have got this shit from the Vatican. It was just gorgeous. It had these beautiful ladies holding up. And man, all I remember was water. Just water. Like we had driven the car underground, man. And so he put the car, moved the car a little bit forward to get off a little bit of the rubble. The car was kind of stuck, so water was still coming down. He gets out the car. He looks around. He says, Ty gets out. He says, everybody good? Ty, be like, yeah, we okay. He says, good. Quick. Get back in the car. Let's go.
What's the craziest Rick James story that you have?
Dude, Rick was one of the funniest people I've ever known. And he wasn't funny just because, oh, it's Rick James and he's making a joke or whatever. He was just naturally super funny. And around with the Rick James, Eddie Murphy friendship, it's weird because I'd been around Eddie Murphy a number of times and almost never seen him be comical. Like, he and his brother were dead freaking serious a lot. And even, I mean, one time Eddie, yeah, I don't know if well, there's times where, no, I can't tell that. But like
off camera.
So Eddie was really introspective. That's one of the things I always used to say to Eddie is like, man, I wish you would do more drama, man, because that's closer to who you really are. He's a very introspective person. And when other people are clowning somebody, he's like, you know, hey, man, you know, I'm like, wait a minute, you like made this house is built on you clowning people, right? So, but it's an interesting dichotomy. But Rick was always funny. Rick just off the top was extremely funny. He was like a one-man show all the time. And I'm telling you, it's not because it's Rick saying it. No, even if he wasn't famous, that dude was funny as hell and talented, really talented. And he used to say to me that he wanted me to play him in a movie. And he's like, no, man, seriously, I was, you know, I was big like you, and I was like, man, I can't.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah.
Cut it out, Rick. You're skinny. You're a skinny rock star. Come on, cut
he
it
wasn't
out.
skinny, but he was.
He was kind of skinny.
Yeah, well,
Super freak Rick James was pretty skinny. He gained weight later on, like after prison.
But you know, he had some muscle size. That's what he used to say. Yeah, I was like, you were not. It's like, nah, but that was a funny cat. Just like I said before, you know, with that new popularity, it just got the best of him, and he was just out partying all the time, and he went really off that wagon, and you know, that's what happened.
Well, before I let you go, we had found an article recently where Todd McFarlane talks about actually blaming himself for the Spawn screenplay, the new one, not selling. I guess he's been working on it, but I guess he didn't feel like it's been good enough. He hasn't put as much work into it. And apparently, Jamie Foxx and Jeremy Renner are attached to the project. Have you heard this at all?
Yeah, I can't help but hear about it because everybody connects me with the whole Spawn thing all the time.
Right, because you originally played Spawn.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I talked a couple years ago. I ran into Todd McFarlane, and he told me his concept about the new Spawn that he wants to do, and he said something. Said something about Spawn. You don't really see him. He's going to be like a mist and whatever, and then people are messed up, but you never see him like the Jaws thing. And I was like, oh well, good luck with that.
Yeah,
I didn't understand that.
Yeah,
well,
he said, I wrote the first draft of the screenplay. If I'd done my job and written a screenplay that mattered, that would have sold it. I'm culpable on that end to start with. So he's basically saying he doesn't have a good enough screenplay.
Oh, here I am being the asshole again by just illuminating people. And hopefully people get the point, even though I can't help. Maybe it's the former educator in me. You know, I was a school teacher before I was an actor. But just for the sake of it, just to educate folks about how it works. Todd McFarlane, like Stan Lee, he created the comic book. Stan Lee is not a screenwriter and not a director. Todd McFarlane, not a screenwriter, not a director. That's not the skill set that he worked on. So it's not that surprising So, when people tell me, because Todd's been saying this for 22 years, I'm gonna do another Spawn. I'm like, that's interesting. Doesn't Sony have the screen rights, and how do you? That's going to take millions and millions of dollars. You've never directed a movie. You've never written a movie. You've got Jamie Foxx signed. Signed? Okay. If you're saying it, people are going to write it. But that is a arduous task to get somebody to front what? $50, $100 million?
Yeah.
To somebody who's never directed or written a movie. Never. That would be the first time that's ever happened in history. Good luck on that. But I know everybody wants to say that. People go, hey, poor Mike. I wish he selected you for the sequel to Spawn. Oh yeah, poor me. Like, okay.
Well, you're working on actual films that are being produced.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of brokenhearted about it. But
so Jamie,
I don't mind being wrong and go, wow, Todd directed a $50 million Spawn sequel with Jamie Foxx starring it, and kudos to them.
Yeah.
Great. But I'm like, hey, if that happens, I'd be like, oh, that's the first time I've ever seen that happen, where Hollywood gave a guy $50 million, $100 million, who never directed a movie. Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck. I mean, hey.
Todd McFarlane's worth like $300 million, according to the internet.
According to the internet.
According to the internet.
The internet can't be wrong.
But it's usually ballpark. I'm sure he's not collecting $1,200 checks right now from the government.
If you think it would be a problem if he had that amount of money, don't you think he would have shot the movie already?
Yeah, but who spends money on their own movies? Seriously.
Anybody?
How often do you see that? How often?
Tyler Perry.
Aside from Tyler Perry,
there's
how many people do you see? And even Tyler Perry, how many people do you see put up $100 million for a film?
No, I see nobody.
It's never happened as far as I'm concerned. Like, I've never seen that.
Mm-hmm.
The studios put up the $100 million budgets. Someone, Will Smith might do a cool indie project and might have his name attached to something. But as rich as Will Smith is, he didn't do the new Bad Boys movie himself.
Yeah, but there are movies that you can get independent financiers to put up a good amount of money because they feel like they can make that money back.
Yeah, but listen, I had a meeting with Legendary Pictures.
Yeah.
And I remember I asked him flat, I said, how come more actors don't finance their own movies? And he said, because most of these movies don't make money.
Mm-hmm.
And we started going through their roster,
that
and it was like, this was a personal conversation. I'm not going to say who it was with or the movies we discussed, but a lot of these big movies that you think were big blockbusters, once you count the production cost and the marketing, a lot of those are in the hole.
Yeah.
And with these big experienced studios like a Legendary Films.
Return on investment. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
You do a studio film, it's got to make 3 times as much to break even.
To break even, yeah.
Right, but what people don't know is that those mid-range movies, they make the majority. They make the majority. Return on investment, if you think about, one of the biggest, the return on investment is like number one. Like, think of the first Road Warrior. That's like, the return on investment is insane, right? It only costs a little bit, but the movies that, like the mano a mano movies where you shoot them for $3 million and this guy's kicking ass, or the type of Taken movies, those type of things, they sell all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
They don't cost that much because it's just basically, it's the kind of movies that I do. Reason why I still have a career, because I do movies that you can dub in Russia and Russians are buying it.
Yeah.
That's what I've done. That's my business model. So I can then now sell to Germany and to this place and that place because action's worldwide.
Yeah.
That's kind of like that keeps going, and it always continues to make money. Those big blockbusters, they have their moment in the sun and they die down because people are not crafting movies the way that they used to.
Right. And the industry's changing because I don't know if you heard about this whole story. The new Trolls movie, which wasn't able to come out in the movie theaters, came out on demand. And what had happened was, when you look at like the last Trolls movie, it came out in the theaters and it made about $100 million. But you split half that money with the theaters. Because the theaters are all closed, it came out on demand exclusively. And it made about $100 million. But the split digitally is 80-20. So they walked away with $80 million instead of $50 million.
Right.
Without all the overhead and probably without all the marketing as well.
True.
And when they announced that, AMC announced they're no longer going to be playing Universal Pictures movies in their theaters. I don't even know if there's going to be an AMC after this whole coronavirus thing.
Yeah, maybe not.
You know what I'm saying? But like, it's just showing that the face of filmmaking is changing in terms of the financials are starting to change.
Absolutely.
And, like VladTV is doing okay right now. We have a digital platform. People watch it on their cell phones mostly. We don't depend on theaters or a ton of marketing or whatever else. So more and more companies are going to be looking at on-demand digitally as the main financial revenue stream.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just smart to be on top of, be ahead of the game in that way.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Michael Jai White, always a pleasure.
My pleasure, my brother.
Yes, sir. Until next time.
Yeah. Next time after this whole COVID thing.
Oh yeah.
We'll remember when.
That's right. Peace.